And so, when he gave a talk, a final appeal, if you like, to say to the people that, look, I am going to make decisions and give orders that you may not completely agree with, that may not sit well with you. But these are the orders of your Khalif, of your commander, of your Amir. This conversation was misunderstood. People thought that he is preparing for surrender. And the Khawarij especially took this very badly and they actually attacked him. And we find that Al-Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salam is actually attacked by members of his own army. His own soldiers protected him, surrounded him, managed to kill the mutineers. But this was the time when now he had a choice to make. Given these factors, he decided reluctantly that he will negotiate a ceasefire with Muawiyah, and on the condition that he could set and choose the terms. And the terms we don't have a single document in its entirety in history where we say that this was the document of understanding or the memorandum of understanding between Al-Hassan alayhi salam and Muawiyah. But we have piecemeal in different books, and we can put together some of the salient points of the understanding. The first was that the government authority would be handed over to Muawiyah, provided he agrees to act according to the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And the second was that after Muawiyah, authority would come back to Al-Hassan alayhi salam, and if any accident happened to Al-Hassan alayhi salam, then it would devolve to his brother Al-Hussein alayhi salam. And Muawiyah should not entrust it to anybody else after him. This also Muawiyah signed to. Then Imam Hassan alayhi salam said, this practice of cursing Amirul Mu'mineen, that means Ali, my father, from the pulpits, in the personal prayers, in the qunut, the Muslimin were being urged that in the qunut, na'udhu billah, to curse Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and also in the following the Friday khutbah, to curse, that should be stopped. And indeed, although Muawiyah agreed to all these things, you find that these practices still continued. It was only at the time when Umar ibn Abdul Aziz comes to power in 99 Hijrah that this practice was finally stamped out, and he was the one who actually gave an official order that from all the pulpits on the Fridays that the cursing of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam should be stopped, and instead he suggested that a verse of the Quran should be inserted in place. Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'idukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. This verse was suggested, and really you will find that all across the Muslim world, generally speaking, on Fridays, this verse is recited. But this is the background of it. The other condition was that Muawiyah would not receive what was presently in the treasury of Kufa. There was some 5 million dirham in the treasury of Kufa that Imam Hassan alayhi salam was very keen not to put over into the hands of Muawiyah. And the reason for that was not, of course, any personal greed or any personal worry about his own finances. However, this was the wealth of the Ummah, of the Muslims that had been in Kufa. And this was money that was owed to them and had to be distributed correctly to them. And he did not want Muawiyah, with his habits of spending whatever was expedient whenever he felt like it, to use this money. And he wanted a certain amount of money of this to be divided amongst the people, the families especially, of those who had been killed fighting on the side of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam in the battles of Jamal and Siffin. Then Imam Hassan alayhi salam had another thing, that the Shia, or the followers, or the partisans of Ali ibn Abi Talib should not be harassed and bullied and even killed. in Hijaz and in Iraq, even in Yemen, Muawiyah had bands of people who were given really encouraged almost these rogues and hooligans to use their sword against those that they felt were either not on the side of Muawiyah or were partisans of Ali alayhi salam or had another line that Muawiyah didn't agree with. Muawiyah generally would silently encourage them to cause rampage through these lands. And these alarming reports of people being rounded up and killed and their villages burnt were coming into Medina, and Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salam wanted assurances from Muawiyah that that would stop. Again, it should be noticed that Muawiyah here, although he agreed to these things and he signed to those things, behind the scenes he encouraged for people to do what they liked and then would not claim responsibility that this is not being done by me, this is being done by other independents. But we know that the hand of Muawiyah was at the back of many of these atrocities. For example, after Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salam, Muawiyah grew so bold that he actually also murdered Hujr bin Adi and his family and companions. And Hujr was a companion of the Prophet who was held in great reverence. But this shows the confidence that Muawiyah had, that really it would be hard for people to pin this back to me, or I can easily give them some spin and some story and say I was not involved. The other thing that Al-Hasan ibn Ali alayhi salam put in which we have quoted by Al-Majlisi, Bihar al-Anwar, is that there would be no intrigue and no attempt at assassination of Al-Hasan or Al-Hussein by Muawiyah. All these things, Muawiyah said, yes, we agree to all this. And there were some other conditions that you find in the books as well. But in time, none of these remained intact. From the side of Al-Hasan ibn Ali alayhi salam, and indeed, as we will see inshallah in the week to come, on the side of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, their own agreement and signature to this was binding. And that is why we find that even after the death of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, Imam Hussein did not march against Muawiyah for 10 years, saying that we had an agreement, and that agreement is not something that I will break from my side. So in this way, Muawiyah gained the power that he aspired for in 40 AH or 41 AH. And we find that once he had consolidated this, then he began to increase his sphere of influence from Syria, which they kept as the Umayyad capital, and northwards towards the Romans, towards the Persians, towards Africa, and especially Muawiyah was very keen to promote his son Yazid, which inshallah we will see in the weeks to come, that what kind of activity Muawiyah did and what kind of deals he made with important people throughout the empire, throughout the Muslim state, to ensure that after him the way was clear for Yazid.